Ahsoka Tano is one of the most loved Star Wars characters ever. She's won the hearts and the minds of the fandom. Now, the last time that we saw Ahsoka was in the epilogue for Star Wars Rebels, where she is wearing this weird white robe and holding this staff. It was an awesome look and gave the fan base a lot of questions, like, what the heck is that mostly, and where has Ahsoka been during the events of the original trilogy? Well, recently, Dave Filoni himself tweeted out a little sketch with a Tolkien quote next to it. It kind of made people think of the Gandalf the White, Ahsoka the White comparison, right? This is something that people had speculated about first, but now it's a little more prevalent. In this video, I want to break down how this could manifest. What might Ahsoka the White be capable of, and what kind of a role will she play in a future story? Let's break it all down. What is up, everybody? Now, before we get into this very crazy video about Ahsoka the White, I need to shout out Vargan1414, who got the nerd card question correct in one of my recent Star Wars videos, and man, look at this answer. Vargan, you definitely know what you're talking about, so shout out to you, and we will do another nerd card question at the end of this video. All right, so yes, indeed, Dave Filoni tweeted out this sketch of Ahsoka Tano, and he had this Tolkien quote, made a lot of people think of Gandalf. Okay, so what might exactly this mean? Well, let's first talk a little bit about Gandalf the White, what he symbolizes, what's going on with Gandalf, and then we'll talk about Ahsoka and see how that might apply to a future story that we get with her. So the White Wizard is actually a status thing in the lore of Lord of the Rings. These wizards, these group of wizards that really are ancient. They've been around on Middle-earth for a long time. They have a hierarchy, and the White Wizard was considered to be the wisest and the most powerful of the Order, the so-called leader of the Order. Now, Gandalf the Grey was literally right next to Saruman as far as power, but you see, like, Grey is, you know, on that shade of white. He's next to him, but he's not as pure and things like that. Now, obviously, if you've seen the movies or read the books, Saruman, not a good guy. Starts to dabble in some dark magic, you know, eventually joins with Sauron. Really bad for Middle-earth. So Gandalf the Grey, after dying and then coming back, is clothed in white. He's given a new confidence, and he ascends to Gandalf the White. Now, before this happens, obviously, Gandalf performs the ultimate act of love, which is self-sacrifice. He sacrifices himself to save the Fellowship from the Balrog. He goes down into the depths of reality to fight the Balrog himself and is destroyed, ultimately sacrificing himself. Then he comes back to life, is sent back for a short period of time to complete his task, to help people defeat evil. Now, the metaphorical reference here is pretty obvious, right? I mean, this is a reference to Jesus Christ, the story of Jesus Christ in which he performs the ultimate sacrifice, taking on all the sin of the world, and then comes back to life, right? So that's there. And so I think Ahsoka the White would really evoke a lot of the same ideas and the same themes. I mean, you know, the purity, this angelic nature, her sort of coming back into the life of Sabine towards the end because her journey is not finished. I think that all will take place and, you know, is a pretty good comparison to Gandalf the White. It might even symbolize a new hierarchy, a new status for Ahsoka. I mean, it's doubtful that she just adopts those cloaks and that staff completely of her own volition. I believe that she would, you know, have some kind of new knowledge, perhaps meet some new order of Force users that would put her in that robe and in that staff. It really has this ceremonial feeling, this feeling of hierarchy, and so, you know, you can assume that something like that happened. So how might that happen? Well, we know that Ahsoka was aware of the Bendu, that Ahsoka had really rejected the teachings and the order of the Jedi, but she was still very strong with the Force, meditating within the Force. I mean, she hears the calling of the sabers in the Ahsoka novel. She goes, finds these Sith sabers, purifies them, which is a really cool ability. Not a lot of Jedi can do that. And so it's clear that the Force has a purpose for Ahsoka. She's tapped into the Force, but she's definitely not going to go back to the Jedi Order. Now, after the events of Star Wars Rebels, Ahsoka is not involved with the comings and goings of the galaxy and really the galactic war at all. Now, we can speculate that this is because she has seen the future. Now, a big reason that she doesn't want to be involved with things is because she feels like it's going to mess things up. If she does something, then she'll affect the future that she saw. You see, right up until the very end of what she saw, which is really the events of all of these trilogies, it's like you know, she wasn't there, right? So she sees that. She doesn't want to go against that because she doesn't want to change what happens. So perhaps Ahsoka goes on some kind of journey of self-discovery, and she finds a new order, a new group of people that are studying the Force. I mean, we've already seen in the canon that there are a ton of different sects of people that follow the Force, that worship the Force. There's the Church of the Force, Force priestesses, Mother Talzin and the Night Sisters. There were the Brothers of Dathomir. And so could this white robe and the new status of Ahsoka be a sign of her spending some time with some new order that had some kind of a higher vision, a higher ideal when it came to the Force? It's very possible, and perhaps we'll see that explained when Ahsoka does come back and we get another story with her. I also think that we can conclude that Ahsoka is just much more powerful when we see her in the white robe and the staff. I mean, the fact that she is carrying the staff probably indicates that she's done with the dual-bladed lightsabers, which is really interesting because Ahsoka was always known as the best lightsaber duelist. She was very powerful with the Force, and she had a special connection to the Force, but ultimately her true value as a fighter was wrapped up in her ability to be incredible with the lightsabers. So in order for her to forsake that and still walk around, I mean, you know, she's probably incredibly powerful with the more mystic side of the Force. That's what the staff evokes. It evokes this idea of a wizard, this idea of magic, this idea of using the Force in that way. And so Ahsoka the White would likely be a very powerful Force user with some kind of a new perspective on the Force, some kind of a new knowledge, a higher knowledge, if you will, of what the Force actually is and what it desires in the galaxy. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in this video is the fact that I really do believe we will be getting Ahsoka the White in a story in the future. I believe that is what this quote means. This Tolkien quote here is talking about passing up on this journey, but this journey that they will eventually take, that Tolkien will eventually take. I believe that journey will eventually be the journey of Ahsoka Tano, and we know Dave Filoni is incredibly protective of that character. We're not going to get that story told without Dave, but I'm pretty sure he knows what the story is in broad strokes. He has spoken about how he knows what's going on with Ahsoka in the robe and the staff, but he's not ready to answer that question yet. And so we will get this story told eventually. And there is one major way that I think Ahsoka the White will be just like Gandalf the White, and this is a very important way. I believe that the big purpose for Ahsoka when we get this next story is that she will be there to inspire. You see, Gandalf is incredibly powerful, and Gandalf the White was even more powerful, but the way he chose to fight against darkness, the way he chose to fight against Sauron, was to actually inspire the people around him to take up arms against evil. He didn't want to just house all the power himself and fight a war against the darkness. He knew to really win the war against the darkness, you win the war in the hearts of people around you. If you can do that, if you can inspire people and get them to take up that fight, they will ultimately be the things that defeat evil. And it's the same thing with the Force. This very powerful Ahsoka Tano, Ahsoka the White that we're calling her, she will not have the power herself to destroy the dark side, even though she's very powerful and could probably defeat most dark side users. That is not the point. What she aims to do is set up this persona that inspires others to want to fight and the future generations down the line to take up their own personal battle against the dark side, which is ultimately what Star Wars is about. It's about our own personal battle with our own personal dark side. And so that's it, guys. Just wanted to do this speculation video, talk about this cool tweet that Dave Filoni made, Ahsoka the White, all the cool stuff that we might get with this character and how I think she's very similar to Gandalf the White. So I hope you enjoyed this speculation kind of stream of consciousness that I just did when it comes to the Ahsoka character. Let me know, did you see this tweet that Dave did? Did you have the same thoughts that I did? Do you know some more stuff about Gandalf the White? I know Girls with Sabers probably does. They're big Tolkien fans. So please let me know your thoughts about all of this and more in the comment section below. And now let's check that nerd card very quickly. I want to know, what is the race that Gandalf spent the most time with? This is straight out of the Silmarillion. It is lore for Lord of the Rings. What race did Gandalf spend the most time with? Answer that question in the comment section below. And as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I will see you in the next